News about Liam's generosity towards the disabled beggar had quickly spread throughout the town, and gossip never ceased. Some villagers criticized him for being so naive as to shelter a man they all deemed worthless, while others ridiculed him behind his back, calling him foolish. Mia overheard the rumors. Whenever she went outside, people who once ignored her now laughed louder, their voices filled with contempt. "Look at him, still pretending to be something he's not," one resident whispered, glancing at Liam as he maneuvered his wheelchair past. "He'll abandon her just like that once he's finished," another added. "Poor Mia, she's too kind for her own good." Liam tried to disregard their remarks, but their words struck him like stones. He had brought all this upon Mia and despised himself for it. She was strong, yes, but how much longer could she handle the scorn? Mia remained silent, but Liam could see the burden of the town's harshness in her eyes. She would smile at him, but the smile no longer reached her heart. One evening, as Liam sat by the window, he noticed a familiar figure approaching Mia's home. His heart pounded in his chest. It was his father's trusted driver, Ethan. Liam's pulse quickened. What was he doing here? Had his family discovered where he had been hiding? Ethan knocked gently on the door, and Mia opened it, surprised to see the well-dressed man standing before her. "Good evening," Ethan greeted politely, his eyes briefly meeting Liam, who remained seated by the window. "I'm looking for Liam." Mia glanced back at Liam, confusion clouding her features. "You know him?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "I've been sent to bring him home." Mia's eyes widened as Liam's chest tightened. He had known this day would come, but not like this, not with Mia still processing everything. "I'm sorry," Ethan said softly. "Your father has been extremely worried. Your mother hasn't been herself since you left." Liam lowered his eyes, guilt washing over him. He had caused his family so much pain by leaving without a word, but returning now without resolving things with Mia seemed impossible. "I'm not going back yet," Liam replied quietly, his voice firm. Ethan looked puzzled. "Liam, your father." Liam interrupted. "I'll return when the time is right." Mia stood by the door, her face pale as she realized just how much Liam had been hiding. This was the final piece of the puzzle. He wasn't just pretending to be disabled, he had left his affluent and influential family behind. "I didn't mean for this to happen," Liam said, looking at Mia with pleading eyes. "I wasn't ready to go back." Ethan handed Liam a letter. "Your father wanted you to have this. I'll be back in a few days, but I hope you make the right decision." With that, Ethan left, leaving a heavy silence behind. Liam sat in silence for a long time, staring at the letter in his hand. Mia sat across from him, her eyes filled with questions. "What now?" she asked softly. Liam unfolded the letter and read it silently, his father's stern yet loving words filling his mind. "My son, you've been gone too long, and your mother's heart breaks each day. I don't understand why you've chosen this path, but I beg you to come home. Wealth can't replace family, and we need you with us. If you've found what you're searching for, bring her home with you. We will accept her, whoever she is, because you are our son, and we trust your judgment. Please don't let this foolish journey continue any longer. Come back to us." Liam's throat tightened as he folded the letter again. His father's words carried both the weight of expectation and a surprising hint of understanding. "I need to explain everything to you," Liam said, his voice trembling. "Everything about who I am and why I did this." Mia sat down beside him, her face a mixture of curiosity and hurt. "I'm listening." Liam took a deep breath and began from the very beginning, his life as the son of a billionaire, his sheltered upbringing, and his growing frustration with never knowing who truly valued him for himself, not his wealth. He told Mia about the arguments he had with his parents, their warnings, and how he had set out on this journey to find someone who would love him for who he was. Mia listened quietly, her face betraying no emotion as Liam laid his soul bare. He spoke of the suffering he had endured, the mockery from the townspeople, and the day he met her, how her kindness had given him hope that there was still good in the world. When he finished, Mia sat in silence for a long time. Liam's heart raced, waiting for her response. He had revealed everything, and now the decision was in her hands. "So you're really the son of a billionaire?" Mia said softly, more to herself than to him. "Yes," Liam nodded. "But that doesn't change how I feel about you. Everything I've told you, everything we've shared is real. I didn't know how to tell you." Mia looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "You lied to me, Liam. How can I know if any of this is true?" Liam felt a wave of panic. "I didn't mean to lie. I was just trying to find the truth. I wanted to be sure you loved me for who I am, not for what I have." Mia stood up, pacing the room. "And now what happens?" Liam's voice broke. "Now it's up to you. I love you, Mia, and I want to be with you, but I understand if you can't forgive me." Mia stopped pacing and looked at him, her eyes filled with conflict. "I need time, Liam. I need time to think about all of this." Liam nodded, his heart heavy. He had finally told her the truth, but now he had to face the consequences. Whether she could forgive him or not, he didn't know. All he could do was wait. That night was one of the longest Liam had ever experienced. Mia hadn't spoken much after their conversation. She had simply said she needed time and retreated to her room. Liam lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, his mind swirling with thoughts of what would happen next. He replayed their conversation over and over in his head, the look on Mia's face, the hurt in her eyes, and the uncertainty in her voice haunted him. He understood why she was upset, but that didn't make the waiting any easier. The thought of losing her after everything they had been through weighed heavily on his heart. Outside, the wind howled through the trees, and Liam could hear the faint murmurs of the townspeople as they passed by Mia's house. He had become the subject of their endless gossip, and now Mia was being dragged into it. That realization hurt him even more. She didn't deserve this. As the night stretched on, Liam struggled to find sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Mia's face, her expression torn between love and betrayal. He wondered if there was anything he could say or do to make her believe that his love for her was real despite the lies he had told. But deep down, he knew the decision wasn't his to make, it was Mia's. The next morning, Liam wheeled himself out to the town square, hoping to clear his mind. The market was bustling as usual, with traders calling out to passers-by, trying to sell their goods. But as soon as Liam appeared, the usual mocking laughter followed him. "There he is, the one who fooled everyone," a woman sneered, her voice loud enough for others to hear. "He thinks he's clever, pretending to be something he's not. Poor Mia, she doesn't even know what kind of man she's brought into her life," another man added with a grin. Liam kept his head down, trying to ignore the comments, but the words stung. He had expected this reaction, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. He wished he could defend himself, but what could he say? They were right, he had lied, and now he was paying the price for it. As he sat in the town square, the villagers' laughter echoed in his ears, a constant reminder of the consequences of his deception. He could see the pity in some people's eyes as they glanced at him, while others looked at him with disdain as though he were nothing more than a trickster. Liam gripped the wheels of his chair tightly, his heart aching. This was the life he had chosen, the life of a beggar, someone the world looked down upon. But he had never anticipated how hard it would be to maintain the pretense, especially now that Mia knew the truth. Meanwhile, Mia was struggling with her own thoughts. She had always prided herself on being a kind and forgiving person, but this situation was different. Liam had lied to her, and not just a small lie, a lie about who he was, about his entire life. It wasn't something she could easily overlook. But then she thought about everything they had been through together, the way he had endured the mockery of the townspeople without complaint, the quiet strength he had shown despite his situation, and the love they had shared. Liam wasn't just a wealthy man pretending to be poor, he was someone who had suffered, someone who had searched for something real in a world that was often shallow and cruel. Mia paced the room, her heart heavy. She knew that no relationship was perfect and that everyone made mistakes, but this was different. She had to decide whether she could trust him again, whether their love could survive this betrayal. The thought of leaving Liam filled her with deep sadness. Despite everything, she still loved him. The connection they shared was real, even if the circumstances weren't. But could she move past the lie? Could she build a future with someone who had hidden such an important part of themselves from her? Later that evening, Liam returned to the house. He had spent most of the day in the market, trying to avoid the stares and whispers, but he knew he couldn't avoid Mia. He had to speak to her again, to apologize properly, to try and make her understand why he had done what he did. Liam called softly as he wheeled himself into the house. Mia was sitting by the fire, her eyes distant, but she looked up when she heard his voice. Liam's heart pounded in his chest as he approached her. "I'm so sorry," he began, his voice trembling. "I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know how else to find someone who would love me for me, not for what I have. I was scared that if you knew the truth, you'd see me differently." Mia looked at him, her expression unreadable. "I was wrong to lie," Liam continued. "I know that now. I should have trusted you from the beginning. But everything I feel for you is real. I love you. I've never loved anyone the way I love you." For a long moment, there was silence. Liam held his breath, waiting for Mia's response. He had laid his heart bare, and now all he could do was hope that she would find it in her heart to forgive him. Mia's gaze softened as she listened to Liam's words. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the pain in his voice. She knew he was truly sorry and had never meant to hurt her. As she looked at him, she realized that despite everything, her love for him was stronger than the lie he had told. "I'm still angry," Mia said quietly, "but I believe you, and I know you didn't do this to hurt me." Liam's eyes filled with hope. "Does that mean?" Mia nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "Yes, I forgive you. But this is something we'll have to work through together." Liam felt a wave of relief wash over him. He reached out and took Mia's hand, his heart full of gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for giving me another chance." They sat together in the quiet of the evening, their hands intertwined. It wasn't going to be easy, but they were willing to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. Though Mia had forgiven Liam, the road ahead was not without its challenges. The next few weeks were filled with awkward silences and hesitant conversations. The trust between them had been shaken, and rebuilding it wasn't as simple as a single apology. Liam worked tirelessly to prove his love and commitment to Mia. Every day, he helped around the house, offering support in any way he could. Mia appreciated his efforts, but the distance between them lingered. She still struggled with the weight of his lie, and no matter how much she loved him, the wound was still fresh. The villagers didn't make things any easier. News about Liam's deception spread, and the cruel laughter seemed louder than ever. Each time Liam ventured into town, people whispered behind his back. "That's the fake," they would say. "He thinks he can fool us, but we know the truth now." Even Mia's closest friends began to distance themselves from her. They couldn't understand why she would stay with someone who had lied to her so deeply. The mockery wasn't just directed at Liam anymore, it was aimed at Mia too. "Why are you still with him?" one of her friends asked, pulling her aside one day. "He's a liar, you deserve better," they said. Mia didn't know how to respond. She knew her friends meant well, but they didn't see Liam the way she did. Yes, he had lied, but his reasons were not malicious. He wanted to find someone who loved him for who he truly was, not for his wealth or status. But even so, the judgment from the villagers weighed heavily on her. One evening, after another exhausting day of avoiding gossip and enduring cold stares, Mia sat beside Liam by the fire. The tension between them had grown over the past few weeks, and it felt like an invisible wall stood between them. "Liam," she said quietly, breaking the silence, "do you ever regret it? Pretending to be disabled, leaving your family behind?" Liam looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and resolve. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice, but then I think about what I was searching for. I wasn't looking for pity or charity. I wanted to find someone who saw me for more than just my father's wealth, and I found you, Mia. I found the person I was looking for." Mia sighed, her heart heavy. But was it worth all of this, the lies, the suffering? Liam hesitated, the weight of Mia's question pressing down on him. He looked into her eyes, filled with both love and uncertainty, and took a deep breath. "If I'm honest," he began, "there were moments when I doubted everything, the suffering, the rejection, the loneliness. It was more than I ever expected. And seeing how it's hurt you now makes me wonder if I should have done things differently." Mia listened quietly, her heart softening as she saw the vulnerability in Liam's face. He wasn't the proud, wealthy man who had walked away from his family anymore. He was someone who had endured real pain, who had seen the worst of humanity, and yet, despite everything, he had found her. Liam continued, his voice steadier now, "When I think about what I've gained, finding you, loving you, it was worth it. You saw me when no one else did. You treated me with kindness when the world was cruel. That's worth more than anything I've lost." Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as Liam spoke. She had seen his struggles, felt the weight of his deception, and yet, despite all of that, she couldn't deny the bond they had formed. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. "I love you, Liam," Mia said softly, her voice trembling. "I just wish we didn't have to go through all of this. I wish it had been simpler." Liam nodded, his heart heavy with the same wish. "So do I, but life isn't always simple, is it?" They sat in silence for a long time, the crackling of the fire the only sound between them. Slowly, the tension began to melt away, replaced by a quiet understanding. They had been through so much, and while the journey wasn't easy, they knew they still had each other. The days that followed were no easier. The townspeople's gossip intensified, and Mia found herself at the center of more judgment and whispers. Women she had once called friends now avoided her in the market, while the men laughed openly as she passed by with Liam. One day, while she was shopping for food, a group of women approached her. "Mia, why do you continue with this lie?" one of them asked. "You're only hurting yourself. Do you think a man like him deserves you after what he did?" Mia stood tall, even though her heart felt heavy. "Liam made mistakes, yes, but he is a good man, and I love him. None of you know what he's been through." The women laughed bitterly. "Good man. He's a liar and a deceiver. If he can lie about who he is, what else is he capable of?" Mia felt the sting of their words but refused to let them break her. She had made her choice, and she would stand by it. Without another word, she turned away from the group and continued with her errands, her head held high. Later that evening, when she returned home, Liam could see the strain in her eyes. He walked up to her, his hands resting gently on hers. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing new," Mia replied with a sigh. "Just more of the same, people who don't understand." Liam's expression darkened. He hated that Mia was suffering because of his choices, but he admired her strength. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I never wanted this for you." Mia squeezed his hand. "I know, but we'll get through this together." As the weeks turned into months, Liam and Mia's love only grew stronger. The villagers continued to gossip, but over time, many began to see that Mia's loyalty to Liam wasn't something to mock, it was something to admire. They saw how she cared for him, how they supported each other through the darkest days, and slowly, their scorn began to fade. One afternoon, as they sat together by the riverbank, Mia turned to Liam with a thoughtful look on her face. "Do you ever think about going back to your family?" she asked. Liam looked out at the water, the gentle ripples reflecting the sunlight. "I've thought about it," he admitted, "but I wasn't ready before. I wanted to prove something to myself, to you. Now, I think I am." Mia smiled softly. "I think it's time too." That evening, Liam made the decision to return to his family's home and finally reveal the truth about his journey. When they arrived, his parents were shocked to see him. His mother, who had always worried about him, rushed forward in tears. "My son, what have you done to yourself?" she cried, holding his face in her hands. Liam explained everything, how he had left to find true love, how he had pretended to be disabled, and how he had met Mia. His parents listened in stunned silence, and when he was finished, his father spoke quietly. "You've always been stubborn, Liam, but I see now that you did what you felt you had to do, and you found a good woman." His mother nodded, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you for loving our son, even when he wasn't honest with us. You're part of our family now." Tears filled Mia's eyes as she embraced Liam's parents for the first time in months. She felt a sense of peace. She and Liam had grown so much together, and now they were finally surrounded by love and acceptance. The wedding that followed was small but filled with joy. Liam, no longer hiding behind the pretense of being disabled, stood proudly by Mia's side as they exchanged their vows. The villagers who had once mocked them now watched with admiration as the couple celebrated their love. Liam had found the true love he had been searching for, and Mia had found the man who would stand by her through thick and thin. Together, they had overcome lies, mockery, and hardship, and in the end, love had triumphed.